In this video, we're talking about what exactly Darwin meant by natural selection, because he himself didn't really understand the finer details of natural selection, which is forgivable because the fact that he even saw it is a miracle. He didn't have all of the stuff that we do now. He didn't have the knowledge of chemistry and physics, genetics, etc. But it's unforgivable that his disciples with a modern view still don't actually understand the finer details. That may sound a little bit arrogant, but please look at the logic. There is no other way for me to say it. If we're looking for the truth, then the best way to say it is the most simple and obvious way to say it. And if I give you my reasons, then I accuse no one. I accuse myself. If it happens to be wrong, then I'm the idiot. Anyway, natural selection is what we're talking about, and we're talking about this guy here. But it has two stages. It is not what you think it is. There is irresistible selection, which itself is divided into selection through pure gravity and DNA tragedy. These two were in an early video. Please see them. I can't put them all together because it'll just be too long and you'd probably fall asleep. But they are completely different. Gravity-driven are all things that nature throws at DNA, or the fragments of DNA, volcanoes, meteorite collisions, fires, etc., etc. Well, this DNA tragedy is the pressure that different fragments of DNA place on each other, like predation, like sexual selection, like parasitosis, and so on. So those are the two stages of irresistible selection, and on top of it we have conscious selection, which comes to fruition in humanity or in humans, but it isn't something that is a miraculous step that came to being with us humans. That would be creationism. It still exists to a certain extent, even in an amoeba, because an amoeba consciously swims towards food items and consciously swims away from threatening things. So, boneheads, please note, there are lots and lots of people who keep talking about Darwinian evolution and are full of opinions, having done no homework. They understand nothing, but they go on and on and on about criticizing various aspects of it. They call it a theory, which it is not. It's an observation. It's as solid as saying there's an apple on the table. You either see it or you don't see it. So the reason for it is because Darwinian evolution is so elegant and it's so simple, which it should be, because it is a branch of natural philosophy, and so it should be just a very simple, straightforward observation of what happens in nature, and it is, but it does need some homework. You need to read up on it, and you need to understand the finer details before you attack it. It is not. Most people believe that a bunch of stupid monkeys got together like this and they decided to become humans. They said, oh, we'd like to be humans, but they had no idea really what humans were or what it entailed, but they decided to do it anyway. My point is this: if you do not understand the term Luca, the last universal common ancestor, if you do not understand what the genetic code is, how it comes about, the bases, how they bond together and what it means, the double helix and so on, you don't understand what DNA is, you do not understand what RNA is, you do not understand protein synthesis, you do not understand genetic mutation and selections of these mutations, then please be quiet. You cannot speak at all about Darwinian evolution if you don't understand, have a very basic understanding of these points, because that would be like talking about a car when you don't understand what an engine is, when you don't understand what wheels are, or a battery is, or an ignition key is. It's just foolish, and it's pointless, and in fact it's very foolish to argue against people who have done no homework and have opinions anyway. So first, let's look at irresistible selection. What is irresistible selection? Irresistible selection is entirely driven by the electron slope, or the electron food chain. I have shown this, I've discussed this many times in some of the early videos, and what it basically means is that we start from hydrogen, where the proton is hungry for the electron, and basically this hunger here for more electrons is what drives gravity. The hydrogen atom preferentially becomes the hydrogen molecule, H2, and then it attracts more and more and more hydrogen atoms, and gravity starts to take over, and eventually we have things like rocks, the moon, the stars, and the galaxy. All of these are nothing other than just bigger hydrogen atoms, because neutrons are just modified protons and photons are modified electrons. Again, look at the videos that I put earlier and you'll see what I mean. And the electronic food chain, in terms of the animals, it means that the predator is proton rich relative to its prey, but it is electron rich relative to its own predator, meaning the size of the proton, the mass, basically defines the electronic slope. And this is how all reactions happen because of this particular thing. So what essentially means, and there's a slight digression here, I've also shown you in the previous video that if we don't eat each other, we'll be best mates, because the electronic slope is the only way that anything happens in the universe. Alienation or symbiosis, where from simple cells we get complex cells, and then complex cells become organs, and then organs become bodies, and so on and so forth, as they evolve in layers and layers of symbiosis. It all happens because of this particular reason, because if we don't kill one another, we become best mates. And guess where? You've heard that before. What does not kill me makes me stronger. How the hell could Nietzsche seen this? It's amazing. I'm flabbergasted to even think about it. But he has, and that's the amazing part. So, whatever you think of what I'm saying in these videos, one thing that for me is, I believe, absolutely vital for anyone trying to understand the universe right from wrong, or likes intellectual pursuits rather than intellectual masturbation, the solving and the making of endless stupid puzzles just for the sake of making yourself feel superior and good, then you must understand Nietzsche. He's very difficult actually to understand. Please see the video later about Nietzsche himself, because he's many things, but he is absolutely unbelievable in terms of his pure philosophy. Nobody can touch him other than Socrates, and he's obviously direct descendant of Socrates. So the will to power is central to evolution, and that goes from the electronic slope, meaning proton constantly attacking the electron. So again, sorry if this sounds arrogant, but it is my view that none of his experts understand Nietzsche properly, because most of them don't understand anything about physics, and most of quantum physics is wrong anyway, if you look at the videos that I put earlier on. And they don't understand evolution properly, because even experts in evolution don't quite understand evolution properly. And that's why I've put these videos, so you can make up your own mind whether I'm the idiot here. But anyway, they don't understand him, and what they do is they water him down to try and sell him, because that's their job. They make money out of selling Nietzsche, and they sell him as a cult rather than as a rational being, and they deny his Superman in history, because his philosophy, or the reality that he explains, is extremely unpleasant. It makes us, it will make you feel very uncomfortable when you see the truth of it, when you realize who you really are. You are an addict and you're a psychopath, and you have to see that before you can move on or do anything about it. So the will to power is central where irresistible selections are concerned. Nietzsche himself didn't understand it, and the reason I say it is because he actually rejected Darwinian evolution. He saw it as a quest for survival, and he sees this survival as people on their knees begging and pleading and worming their way for to be let to live, and for him survival was of no consequence. You should be able to sacrifice everything to serve your Dionysus, the god of pure pleasure and psychopathy. But as you can see, he was wrong, because the central core of evolution is not survival. Absolutely not. That's survival is just a byproduct of being entirely Dionysian, and that's the clarity of his vision is absolutely frightening, of how he could have seen it without the laws of physics and without actually tracing evolution from bonding. So anyway, Nietzsche misunderstood evolution as I just explained it. he saw it as survival. It is not. Nietzsche's moral philosophy is Dionysian, or the god of wine. It is also his choice of this god is incredible, and also his choice of the Apollon, or god of Apollo, for the other side, is also amazing. But that we'll come to that later when we talk about Nietzsche's philosophy on its own. But this is amazing because Dionysus, he does not beg, he does not apologize, he does not care about anything. He just serves his own will, and I am my will. He's an incredible thing, or fictitious, or whatever the hell he is. But anyway, Nietzsche's moral philosophy is entirely Dionysian, and the obsession with one's cravings, with one's will, regardless of its consequences. It is the celebration of pure irresistibility, which is fundamental, as I've just been trying to explain. We're looking at the irresistible selection, the path of the chemical pathways, and it's the celebration of pure psychopathy when it comes to conscious beings. And again, we'll look at that later, and you'll see, what I mean. But it is very difficult to look at because it's the truth, and it is a horrible truth, because we, especially in the modern woke world, where we just like to shut our eyes and believe we are wonderful and all cuddly and furry, it is a very difficult philosophy to come to terms with. Anyway, complexation at the irresistible stages is due entirely to gravity, and it is to do with this electron slope. You've seen it probably if you followed some of the earlier videos. All bonding is relative gravity, where the will to power here. This is all about power, and this is where it comes from, where the proton attacks the other guy and wants its electrons, and it wants it more and more and more until it's ripped off the electron, the ionic bonding. And this is the situation in nature when the lion rips apart the zebra and takes away its electrons and consumes it. So the path of irresistible selection comes from hydrogen going to, I'm just recapping for what we said, hydrogen molecule, there's helium, and then atomic speciation of all the others, which are basically nothing. If you look at it, proton, electron is just a modified hydrogen atom. All atoms are modified hydrogen atoms. And then they, through irresistibility and chemical bonding, gives us all the bases that form our DNA and RNA, and they then code for proteins, which then gives us our cells, and the cells then congregate symbiotically to give us our organs, and the organs then combine symbiotically to give us the bodies, plants, animals, etc., etc. All of this happens through sheer irresistibility. And I stress again, what do I mean by sheer irresistibility? Sheer irresistibility means things happen because they must, and they cannot happen because they cannot happen. Simple as that. H2 plus O2 gives water. H2 plus O2 will never give HCl or hydrogen chloride or an acid. So that's what irresistibility means. All are due to irresistibility, but up to the dawn of hominids, all selections are predominantly through chemical pathways or the electron slope irresistibility. Instinct itself is mostly Dionysian because it's hardwired through chemical processes. So there is an evolutionary jump with hominids. Although I said before, conscious selection to a certain degree is present in every animal, which is what you should expect it. Otherwise it wouldn't be evolution, it would be creation if it had just simply appeared in us humans. So it's there, but it isn't really, and you will see why especially the Homo sapien stage is an incredible jump. It is a totally different kind of evolution that we're talking about. So as significant as the first two, this jump, the first one of course being fusion, which gives us the alienation of gravity and gave us all the atomic Serengeti, and then the alienated motive where the gravity motive changed to replication. And those two jumps are almost miraculous. But the DNA has now got a very special and dangerous leaf. If you go ahead, see the two models of evolution, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about here, because there are two models in evolution, again, that most experts don't know or don't talk about. And one is the seed model, or the other one is the acorn model. And the tree of life is the only living organism, and we are just a leaf on it, because the seed model makes no sense. Please see that video if you haven't seen it. But the problem here is that with conscious selection, we leave behind irresistible selection, and that is almost like a leaf catching fire, because now evolution has gone to an accelerated level. It becomes completely mad, and you'll see what I mean. So the danger here is obvious. If one leaf catches fire, the tree catches fire, and the whole bloody thing catches fire. If you have looked around at the state of the world and you see the impact of humans in the last 100 years, then you really are looking here, right here, at this fire that is raging. If we don't do anything about it, it will end up, or accidentally it might sort itself out. But if you want to live your life through accidents, then knock yourself out. Anyway, the essence of conscious selection, what is it? Please bear this one in mind, because this is very, very important. This is why it's so unique. Up to conscious selection, everything happens because of the electron slope. Now, with conscious selection, we can select against the electron slope, which is unique and unnatural. This is a very unnatural event. We can do selections opposite the electron slope. You'll see what I mean later on. To understand conscious selection, we must first understand a number of other things. What is genetic shortfall or genetic alienation? If you don't understand this, then please bear with me, because you need to understand this. Otherwise, you don't understand humanity. You don't understand the significance of Homo sapiens and the danger of Homo sapiens. What is equalization? Because of this genetic shortfall, we have to have equalization, or we would have perished. What are cerebral genes? This is not a metaphor. Genes change completely when conscious selection happens. Now genes are no longer the simple mutations of your cellular DNA. It's something completely different, and that's why it's so accelerated and so dangerous, and it's like a fire. So these are the things that give us the inevitable acceleration. So see the next video. I think I've called it Phlegm of Evolution, Humanity, the Phlegm of Evolution, and you'll see why. So let's get to know our masters. If you've seen the previous video, I showed you that our masters are our genes. We're just blind donkeys, just doing what they tell us to do, because we're addicts and chase their will. But what are genes anyway? In order to go further and say what are genetic shortfalls and how do we catch up? What are genes? The layman explanation is good enough. We're not geneticists, and I don't particularly care about it. I just need to understand the path it takes. So if you look at genes, the bases in an RNA or a fragment of DNA, essentially on the whole they code for proteins. Proteins then form things like the machinery of the cell, the things that, like, these are digestive enzymes that you need to break down your food and process it into energy. But also proteins congregate and form the cell itself, the components of the cell, and so on, which in itself is a little living organism. But the important thing that I want to make is you can actually, for a layman, you can say that genes provide us with features. What does that mean? Tools to solve problems. There isn't a single gene, for example, that codes for the tiger's claws. The genes are congregations, they are recipes, they're not a blueprint. You need a number of genes, and then they will give you a feature or a tool, but it will also do many other things. The camouflage colors of the tiger are due to its genes. The claws are due to its genes. Its sharp teeth are due to its genes. The aggression with which it rips things apart is due to its genes. The cheetah runs fast because of its genes. The fish can breathe underwater because of their genes, and the butterfly flies and has wings because of its genes. So all of these are features, and that's a reasonable and an acceptable definition of what genes are. So they give us our features, but we do not have these features. And so what happens there? Now look what do you see? Cerebral genes are real. They're not a metaphor. Why are they real? Is because they provide us with real features. We don't have teeth, we don't have claws, but we have a samurai sword. That makes us a tiger. We can't run fast, but we have a Ferrari. We can run faster than a cheetah. We cannot swim, we're not fish, but we can swim just like a fish underwater. We don't have wings, or do we have wings? Yes, we do, because we can paraglide, or you'll get in a helicopter and fly around. My point is that cerebral genes, or our thoughts, are real because they provide us with real tools for real problems. So cerebral genes are warehouses of weapons in your mind or in anybody else's mind, because remember, we're now talking about an organism that's congregated into a state, and that organism has a culture, and within our culture we have all of these genes, but the beauty of it is, even though they're not your genes, you can access them whenever you want. You cannot make a gun, but you can go and buy one. You're not a pilot, but you can buy a ticket and fly wherever you want. All of these are in our collective thoughts. So these cerebral genes, or our thoughts, our ability to make stuff, and you'll see this in a bit more later on when we discuss humanity, these are absolutely real. This is not a metaphor, and that is why we have accelerated to the place where we are. I call it warehouses of weapons. We really should be using them as tools, but we don't. The fact that we have these weapons, and we still can't stop ripping each other to pieces, should amply, you shouldn't really need me to explain it, that all we have done is concentrated our brains into making more weapons and better weapons against what? Against each other, obviously, because that's the source of the problem. None of it has been really directed to making tools. The tools are just a byproduct, rather than a conscious and deliberate search for them. So even right now, little men and little women all over the place are busy conning each other through, Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They're devising little strategies how to rip each other off. Anyway, cerebral genes make Lamarckian look slow as les escargots. But what I mean is that Lamarck was this guy who was a bonehead who was arguing against Darwin when he came up with with natural selection, and his idea was that we have our genes are modified, or because we use our hands and feet and so on, and we, for example, we get calluses, then that is passed on to our children, and of course that's ridiculous. So his idea was that things would be changing a lot faster because we use our eyes, so that somehow makes better eyes in the future and so on. But it's all nonsense. In any case, cerebral genes make Lamarckian, and if you want, please look it up so you understand what I mean properly about Lamarck. This is not about him. Make that look absolutely slow and pointless, because we can now go like this guy here and say, give me 7 red genes, 12 blue genes, 11 green ones, and 2 dozens of those over there. We can buy our own genes, if you like. We're not subject to mutations. We're not subject to sitting around waiting hundreds of thousands of years for one to occur. We can just go out there and buy whatever genes we need instantaneously, and you do it every single day. When you get in your car, when you get into a shop, when you get in an elevator, when you get on a plane, when you use your computer, none of this was done by you. It was done by other people, and the genes are there for you to pick and choose from. So if God made man, and I'm just using that as a silly example, we're talking about natural selection here, so not about religion, but if God made it, then this is his greatest gift to him, by far and away, giving him the choice to choose his own genes, the gift of instantaneous gene replacement therapy. This is amazing, because you don't have to put up with anything anymore, and thou shalt chooseth thy own genes is the greatest gift that you can give to anybody. Just think about it. No more death, no more disease, no more hunger, no more anything really that is harmful, and that's why you see the population explosion. So thou shalt choose it thy own genes, but thou art extra stupid, so thou will let holy men and baby kisser politicians do it for you, which is of course we do anyway. If you need that was basically, I hope you got the gist of what natural selection is. Basically, it's irresistible and conscious selection, and what those two meant. If you need a complete and systematic explanation, please get this book. It's free of charge. I don't want anything from you, from Kindle ebook. And my motive is not to get anything from you. It just, if you love science, then I think it's important that we examine the establishment and challenge them, because if we don't, they become cults, which is what they are now. They're businesses, they're cults, they're completely shut down, territorial, and sell the same old crap over and over again. And if you think about it, it is completely pointless. This education system is pointless. Why? Because the most educated people become the most powerful, and yet they are the ones that cause the most damage. So what's the point of that kind of education? You might as well not have it. Anyway, as per Socrates, the unexamined life is not a human life. We are living the lives of accelerated animals, basically. We're a chimp on a motorbike. Our technology is amazing, but our understanding of it is none. Unexamined truth are just opinions. Everybody's got it now with modern world and the social media. It's just full of it. Every idiot is saying something without providing a justification. I'm not saying I am not one of those idiots, but at least, as you can see, I am providing you with a logical path or an algorithm. And if it turns out to be wrong, then it's wrong, but it's not an opinion. Thank you.